America is not apparently ready for a free-thinking, free-acting black man or woman. America and those in positions of power seem to like us most when we are more responsive and responsible to them than we are to the needs, hopes, and aspirations of our own people. You, as college students and as intelligent black men and women, must understand that those in power are very afraid to see us move in a free direction. And so those in power and those behind the scenes will do everything they can to thwart the direction of those who want to chart a truly independent course that will lead to the ultimate total liberation of all of our people, not only here in America, but in the Caribbean and throughout the world. And so tonight, I wanted to talk to you about why it is necessary for us to rethink our direction and rethink how we can truly make black organizations our own.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Louis Farrakhan says they control the schools our children go to. They control the media that shapes our minds. They control the banks that decide who gets a loan and who does not. They control the politicians that claim to represent us but whisper their master's language in secret rooms. Louis Farrakhan, for the longest time, he had insisted that the white people control every black institution. He is warning that the true freedom of black people cannot come from organizations that are financially, ideologically, or politically dependent on their oppressors. He urges total self-reliance, unity, and the building of independent black-owned systems, from schools to businesses to medias. Louis Farrakhan, for the longest, he delivered this speech in prophetic tones, conviction, and warnings to the black Americans. So let's watch this video till the end, and at the end of the video, we are going to have a good discussion about the warnings Louis Farrakhan has been sending to the black Americans for over 4 decades. See you at the end of the video.
Just this past week, we learned that the most respected and revered civil rights organization, the NAACP, saw fit to oust the Reverend Ben Chavis. Some agreed with that decision, others did not.
Because of the silence of the black
The
community.
question is whether the Reverend Ben Chavis charted a proper direction for the organization. I will leave the right or wrong of the arrangement that was made with Mary Stansel to the internal mechanisms of the NAACP. But the direction of the Reverend Ben Chavis, we must assess it. And is the fact that the $64,000 and the $333,000 arrangement that the Reverend made through the lawyers of this woman, was that really why he was ousted? Or was there a deeper hidden agenda involved? Now, personally, I owe a debt of gratitude to the NAACP. And every one of us in this room, whether we are members of the NAACP or not, owe a debt of gratitude to this organization. Because without this organization, and what this organization with other civil rights organizations did, we would not have the measure of freedom, and I put that in quotes, that we have today. I grew into consciousness from the reading of the Crisis magazine when I was a little boy, reading the writings of W.E.B. Du Bois, who at that time was a member of the NAACP. W.E.B. Du Bois will go down in history as one of the greatest thinkers that has come from among us. But he too was ousted from the NAACP, even though he was a founding member. Now, why? Are black organizations really ours? And if they're not, what must we do to make black organizations truly ours and black leaders free enough to lead us? Because if the leaders are not free, they certainly cannot lead you to liberation. And I respectfully suggest that no black leader today that has national prominence, with the exception of myself, is really free to talk to you like real men and to lead you in a proper direction. None of them are free. Brilliance is not freedom. Eloquence is not freedom. The ability to speak to the hurt of your people without looking over your shoulder, wondering whether the former slave master is approving what you say. That is to be free. And I stand before you tonight a free black man who has not to worry about what anybody thinks about what I say. This is why Farrakhan has a level of popularity that no other black leader enjoys. It's not because I'm better, it's because I'm freer to speak the truth. And that's exactly what our people need, is more truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But if your leaders are afraid to speak the truth because somebody may pull a plug on them, if our preachers are afraid to preach the truth for fear of downtown putting pressure on them, then these are unfit leaders that must be exposed and pushed aside. Now, what was Dr. Chavis's crime? Since the founding members of the NAACP were black and white, Jewish and Gentile, Christian and Jewish, there was in the beginning an idea of a multi-racial unity to work for the benefit of people of color. Not people of color that have college degrees alone. Not people of color of scholarship. Not a middle-class elite group. But it didn't say that. It said a national association for the advancement of people of color. Not some, but all. Is that correct? However, in the original charter, there was no mention of economic development for black people. And without economic development, social freedom only leads you to spend your money where other people benefit and you may or may not. Now, when I went to school here in North Carolina, yes, I came to North Carolina with a purpose in mind. I wanted to experience what my brothers and sisters in the South had experienced all their lives since I grew up in Boston and segregation was subtle. I wanted to go where it wasn't subtle. So I came here. And it was not subtle, brother. And in North Carolina is where I decided that I was going to be a Muslim. I wasn't interested in changing my religion from Christianity to Islam. I grew up in the church. I loved the church. But the church was not addressing the needs of liberation at that time. So when I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X, I knew it was only a matter of time before I would make a decision to join them. And in order to join them, I had to change my religion. So when I changed my religion, I became a Muslim, grew up as a Christian. Well, all of a sudden now, I became interested totally in the liberation of our people. But I saw in education a sickness that our black colleges and universities, like our black organizations, are controlled from outside. Even though you pay your money to get an education, the curriculum is designed by people who design a curriculum not to make you free, but to make you fit in a system that is diametrically opposed to your freedom. From the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I looked at black colleges because I was a member of one. And I saw the sickness in the colleges, the moral lapse in the professors that would have sex with the young girls to give them passing grades that they may go out and teach our children what they were not truly qualified to teach. This was before the decision in 1954 to integrate the schools. But in the 60s, these colleges became the hotbed of black dissatisfaction, dissent, and revolution. So now, white folk who wanted us not in their schools, so that's why these schools were set up. Now all of a sudden want to break up these schools because too much black thought is coming out of the black college and university system. Somehow, a disease has gotten into the college system. A virus has gotten into the computer that makes them not able to compute what you're going to be like after 4 years here. Because there's new thinking now generating on the college campuses. And that new thinking is to break free and to do constructive things for the advancement of our people. Black organizations were set up to advance us socially, to break down social barriers, not political barriers, not economic barriers, but social barriers. However, black folk got interested in politics. Then we started seeing black mayors, black state senators, blacks on city councils throughout America, black sheriffs, but we still weren't free. Now, we always have been in the church ever since white folks said it was not incompatible for us to be slaves and Christians. That's not what Jesus said. That's what white folks said. I'm going to say it again. I don't want you to be angry with me. But white folks who claim that God is love and Jesus paid a price for our redemption, these same folk held us in slavery. And then when they made us Christians, they would not allow us to worship with them. Let's talk a minute. We worship in the field. And the field hands that worship out of the field hand religion came the black church experience. You wanted to be First Baptist? But they didn't want you as a First Baptist, so you became Second Baptist, Third Baptist, Shiloh Baptist, Mount Calvary Baptist, because you knew you were being crucified all along the road. You wanted to be a Methodist with the white Methodists, but they didn't want you. They were Christians. They said God is love, but that love never extended to black folk, Native Americans, Hispanics. So you had to leave the Methodist Church and form the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Some of you that really got accepted became Unitarians. Some became Lutherans. Bless your hearts. And there you were washed white as snow. So your God was white, your heaven was white, your Jesus was white, your angels was white, and you were black still trying to fit in. And haven't quite made it yet. Now, I notice, I could be wrong, but I notice that even though we tried to integrate the schools, which are more segregated today than they were when Dr. King was here, but Reverend, you have never tried to integrate the church. You still the pastor of a black church. Talk to me. You may have one or two whites in there singing in the choir, hitting the tambourine off beat. But by and large, Reverend, you got a black church. Isn't that right? And you're happy with your black church. But white folk don't want to hear you preaching to them. I mean, they're trying to hoop a little themselves today. I listen to them on television, trying to get a tune in their voice. They haven't quite made it yet. They got to the crying stage. So, our friend in Baton Rouge, he just break down and he'll hoop in a little while. I'm not really trying to be funny. Because if it weren't so tragic, it would be funny. But the tragedy is that we are 20th century slaves moving into the 21st century, not yet free. That bothers me. Does it bother you? Very good. So here now, we have a revolt in the black church, a revolt in the black college. Because now the black church is teaching a black theology. Bishop Stallings has broken from the Catholic Church and now has set up Imani temples. I went to a Catholic church recently, a white pastor, who's one of the best white pastors that I know. He has turned the Catholic Church and the Catholic service into a ritual of black culture. Instead of coming to the organ with a, dirge-like thing, he got African drums, and they come down the aisle, burning the incense. I said, whoa, man, this is a change. I looked up, and there was a huge picture of a black Jesus. I said, whoa, somebody's getting the message. There's a revolt now in the church, in the school. The idea of Caucasians is, how can we keep control of it, keep a lid on it? Don't let it go too far. Don't let it go too fast. Because if they get free, they might change America completely and go on to change the world. When I was in North Carolina, we had insurance company, we had banks, we had bus company, we had our own gas station, restaurant, motel, hotel. They weren't as fine as these big ones, but they were ours. The moment desegregation became a law, or integration became the law, we didn't integrate the neighborhood. We didn't integrate the schools. What did we integrate? We integrated the hotels, the motels, the businesses. So the millions of dollars, the billions of dollars that were coming into our hands began to leave our community, building up every other community, leaving our community poor, ragged, hungry, naked, and out of doors, looking to a mystery God to come down from the sky and help us out. The white Masons stayed in their Masonic temples. The black Masons stayed in theirs. The white Shriners in their temples. The black Shriners in theirs. The white church is pretty much still the white church. The black church is pretty much the black church. So, brothers and sisters, from 1954 to 1994, 40 years had passed. Schools are not integrated. Church not integrated. The temples of the Masons not integrated. You got white elks and black elks. You got your sororities and fraternities, and they're black. They got their sororities and fraternities, and they're white. You're not integrating Delta. You're not integrating AKA. You're not integrating Omega. You're not integrating Alpha, and you are happy with your black fraternity. Why aren't you happy to be with your black self? What is wrong with us being together as a family? I'm for integration. What? Of course I'm for integration. When I was in college, or rather in high school, they had an axiom that the whole is equal to the sum of its parts. And an integer is a whole number. So when you're going to integrate people, you're going to integrate them to make the society whole. So to make the society whole, then each part must belong to in order to be made a part of. If I got 4 pieces of apple pie and 4 pieces of bean pie, I had to talk about that bean pie. And I put these 4 pieces of apple and bean in a tin that holds 8 slices. I got 8 slices, but I don't have a whole pie. Because in order for it to be a whole, at the root, they got to belong. The bean is not related to the apple. And so it would take 8 pieces of bean pie to make it whole, or 8 pieces of apple pie. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how can you integrate with white people and you have not integrated among yourself? And if to integrate with your own people is illogical, then integrating with those who are the children of those who put you in this condition, how logical is that? And what has been the benefit to you? Since integration, you lost your businesses. And right now, you are a dependent group. You say, I don't believe in welfare. The NAACP, the Urban League, are welfare organizations. I know you don't like that. You don't even have to applaud. But I'm going to prove exactly what I'm saying. You got black people who have been on welfare for 3 and 4 generations, and they have what you call a welfare mentality. What about the NAACP? What about the Urban League? What about your black organizations? They are nothing more than welfare recipients, and if white folk cut them off, they don't know how to survive on their own. That's not freedom. Are y'all all right? Now that's not racist. That's just truth. I love the NAACP. It's a very valuable organization. I love the Urban League. Very valuable organization. They do good work for black people, but to a limited degree. And Ben Chavis proved and exposed the root of it. That was not his intention. Ben is a Christian. Ben suffered as a man that wanted freedom for our people. That's why he went to jail. Ben worked for Christian organizations and Christian causes. He worked for racial equality and racial justice. Ben Chavis is not a racist. Ben Chavis is not anti-Semitic. Ben Chavis is a black man who feels the pain and hurt of his people. He's traveled all over the world. He knows what black suffering is. So when he was voted in as the executive director of the NAACP, he decided to help the organization to chart a much bolder, more progressive course that would be in the best interest of all of our people. Now listen to me. The black community has deteriorated so much that we are the chief destroyers of ourselves. We have become the number one rapers, robbers, killers, abusers of ourselves. How can the NAACP, the Urban League, or any black organization be relevant and not deal with the pain that's in the black community and the suffering of black youth that make black young people feel alienated from their parents, alienated from the church, alienated from the school, so they find comfort with one another in gangs?
Welcome back. When Louis Farrakhan is arguing that the black Americans are controlled in everything they do in America, what does he mean? The first thing he means that the black people have already lost their independence. Farrakhan argues that many black organizations, whether religious, educational, or political, are not truly independent. He believes they rely heavily on white financial backing, political approval, or media attention, making them easy to manipulate or silence when they challenge the status quo. Louis Farrakhan says that these oppressors, they control the blacks through funding. He often says that whoever pays the piper calls the tune. That means when the black leaders or organizations depend on funding from government grants, wealthy donors, or corporations, they become limited in how far they can speak against injustice, racism, and exploitation. He argues again that they are controlled through suppression of true leadership. He teaches that genuine revolutionary black voices, those who call for unity, self-reliance, and separation from oppressive systems, are often targeted, silenced, or replaced with approved leaders who will not challenge power structures. Another point, he argues that the black people are controlled is through the cultural and educational influence. He points that through control over media, entertainment, and education as forms of influence that shape how Black people see themselves. He warns that this control weakens cultural pride and collective identity, making Black communities more dependent on others for validation. Louis Farrakhan argues that through spiritual institutions, the Blacks are controlled. This includes churches and religious organizations, arguing that many have been softened or redirected from their mission of revelation to one of quiet obedience and survival under systems of oppression. This man, Louis Farrakhan, fearlessly insists that Black people are not truly free because their lives, thoughts, and institutions are controlled by outside powers, mainly the same white and corporate systems that once enslaved and still economically dominate them. He emphasizes boldly and repeatedly on that control is deeper than slavery. Louis Farrakhan says that the modern form of control is not chains on the hands, it's chains on the mind. He insists that Black people are being controlled through education, religion, media, and money, all designed to make them dependent and obedient. Through economic dependence is the root of control. That's another big form on how these Black Americans are controlled. He argues that as long as Black communities rely on white-owned systems for food, jobs, and funding, they will never make independent decisions. He quotes and says that whoever feeds you controls you. He says whoever pays you owns your tongue. The media in America has really manipulated the image of Blacks. He insists that the media deliberately shapes how Black people see themselves, glorifying ignorance and violence while silencing intelligence and pride. On some point, he says that, he quotes that they control how you see your brother and how you see yourself. He wants, so you hate your reflection while loving your enemy. These are words from Louis Farrakhan. Through the destruction of the true Black leadership, he always insists that powerful institutions that fear strong, independent Black leaders, so they use money, scandals, or a division to destroy or weaken them. Every time a Black man rises, who cannot be bought or controlled, they come for him. Farrakhan states they fear the one who answers to God, not them. That's a bigger form of controlling these Black people by destroying the leadership of the Black when they are trying to rise. The call of reliance is that Black people must build their own systems. Although he talks on how these Black people are controlled, he's never tired on ensuring that these Blacks one day will not get controlled. So building schools, banks, media, businesses and farms completely independent of those who have historically oppressed them will change their way of life and they might not get controlled again whilst they in America. This Farrakhan never fears anyone. He says these Black people are still being controlled, not by force, but by influence, independence, and manipulation. And he tells them, he demands them to wake up, unite, and build their own life to change how things are in America. Louis Farrakhan speaks that through actions, opportunities, and direction, blacks are controlled in America. They control what black people think. He says that the greatest control isn't physical, it's through mental. He says that the American system teaches black people how to think, what to value, and even what to hate. They don't have to change your body anymore when they have changed you mentally. That's what he argues. And through controlling how you think, everything for you becomes useless. And this makes you feel like you have no power. While in America, Louis Farrakhan is always emphasizing on leadership. He argues that many black leaders in politics or religion or entertainment are chosen or approved by white power structures. In short, he's trying to say that the black people, they don't have the capability to choose their own black people and approve them. They must involve the white power structures in them. He argues that these white structures ensure that they give leaders who will speak softly, will never challenge the master. And through these, they end up getting controlled. He says that true revolutionary leaders, the ones who speak of independence and justice, are attacked, discredited, or silenced. And that's how they end up getting controlled. We have really talked about the black economics. The black community produces wealth but owns little. They produce a lot of wealth, but they own very little. Why? He argues that the big corporations and white-owned systems control where black people shop, what they buy, and even what neighborhood they live. So they make these oppressors rich while they remain poor. He insists that economic dependence keeps the black man from real freedom. And by building their own structures to get money, they are going to control everything that takes them back to where they are getting controlled. Another big control the oppressors use is they control black organizations and movements. Farrakhan insists that many civil rights and activist organizations are influenced or infiltrated by outside interests. They give money to our causes, but only to make sure they can direct the outcome. That's what they do, he says. They give money to these movements, but they are the ones to make decisions for those movements, what will happen at the end. He says whenever black people start to organize for true independence, they send one of their own to sit at the table and report back. That's how these black people end up being controlled. This Farrakhan is never getting tired on fighting for the rights of each and every black person in America. That's why he's talking about any way these black people are treated badly, are oppressed in America. And through teachings like this, he's trying to change the mindsets of the blacks to have a better way of life, to end this controlling in America. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share this video. And let's meet on the next video.